6:55, 5 live breakfast Tuesday morning. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has called for an end to a row between fans and club bosses over ticket prices. We've been discussing this quite a fair bit. Several thousand fans walked out on Saturday before Liverpool threw away that 2-0 lead to draw 2-2 with Sunderland. Now, last night the club cancelled a live question and answer session about the controversial 2016 to 2017 pricing structure, and everyone in the city, unsurprisingly, has an opinion about the row.
I would think something has to be done at Premier League level. Price caps or something for supporters. I think until that's done, clubs will just try and match each other with prices. It's a business at the end of the day. So
most of the fans are concentrating on the £72 price, but you don't know that some of the prices went down as well. The walkout was a bit harsh because after they walked out, the team just collapsed.
People are really angry, yeah. So they have a right to express it.
I think the football's all far too expensive. They should let the kids in free.
It does show them, like, you know, we're not prepared to keep doing that to fund you growing. You know, they could use that out of the footballers' wages.
Well, it was quite significant, wasn't it? 10,000 or so walking out. Georgie's here, and we're going to speak to Gareth Roberts from the Anfield Wrap podcast, who walked out. Morning, Gareth.
Morning, Nicky.
Hi. Was there a real sense of not just anger about it when you walked, but solidarity?
There was, yeah. I mean, you know, there's a real feeling of pride, really, as well. I mean, it was a very strange atmosphere. You know, there was black flags on the cop. People were singing about the prices. And for once, the football really sort of took a back seat. I think there was a real feeling of solidarity, and the fact that you saw, 10 to 15,000 all walk out and all turn their backs on the team. You know, that's unprecedented, really, in the history of the club, and it just shows you the strength of feeling.
Mixed emotions, though, you must have had.
Yeah, there was. I mean, because it really goes against the grain of what it is to be a football fan. You know, that's what you're in it for. That, you know, you're in it for match day. You're in it to see your team in front of you on the pitch, and you know, fans that go week in, week out feel like they can play a part in what goes on the pitch. They feel like they can influence it with the atmosphere. So to just walk away just shows you, you know, as the fans were singing, that enough is enough. That this is the point that they've reached. You know, it really is breaking point now with the ticket prices.
Do you think it'll make any difference, Gareth?
I think it already has. I mean, you look at the amount of media coverage all around the world ever since, and the fact that it seems to have really pierced the football bubble this time, in terms of you've got players, managers, ex-players and managers all talking about it now. It seems more than ever before that people are saying, do you know what, the fans are right. I mean, it was brilliant to see it talked about on Match of the Day, and you had Alan Shearer saying, you know, why can't they bring the prices down now? There's so much TV money washing around the game. Why should the fans basically be taxed for their loyalty?
And the Football Supporters Federation indicating that there might actually, Gareth, being a widespread walkout, fans from every club for one round of games.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like that. I mean, there are a lot of fans around the country who feel the same way as Liverpool fans. I mean, and we've sort of led the way on this, but there's been fans all around the country discussing the same issues, and it's just that we were the first, and we showed that it could be done. And I think hopefully it does carry on now. It feels like there's that there's something rolling now. There's some momentum behind this, and hopefully the result of it is that people at the top of clubs, that people who run the Premier League, finally say, you know, enough is enough. We will bring the prices down.
Gareth, thank you very much. Gareth Roberts from the Anfield Wrap podcast.
In a nutshell, I think first and foremost, it's 20 years now of football supporters getting the thin end of a wedge. Ticket prices only go one way. Seeing the increase of TV money coming into the game quite consistently to unprecedented and frankly astonishing levels. Ticket prices, obviously, as I say, keep going up. Then you've got other questions around kick-off times and all this sort of stuff. And I think you've got to put the backdrop of that in all this. I've always had the view that TV money will be the thing that sees us get ticket prices reduced. And when they're about to have the biggest deal they've ever had in terms of TV money, Liverpool shows, after 13 months of consultation with supporters groups, that they currently earn 35 million, with the increased stand from normal tickets, it will go to 37 million. And rather than take action and reduce and think about reduction, what they've done is they've quite arbitrarily, as far as I can see, decided they want to earn £39 million from normal tickets, from the normal punters who come through the gate next season. And people just decided enough's enough. So the £77 ticket's the headline figure. But on the whole, it's a lot of increases for those who get increases. So what they've done is they've created from 5 tiers, 19 tiers of tickets. So my season ticket, for instance, has gone up over £100, but I know some people whose has gone down by £3. So across the board, it's become this quite sort of fragmented situation. Basically, people are just tired of it's the 2 million, which is the issue. I think if they'd have just retained the tickets, the amount they were getting from tickets in general, people would have shrugged their shoulders and gone, well, it's a shame they couldn't have done anything. But it's the point at which you feel that those football clubs are just swinging the lead. And I think that it isn't just this one thing, but obviously this has precipitated it. And there's just a point when it was one of the chants coming from the crowd without it being one of the sweary ones at the weekend was enough is enough. And I think that that's sort of how everyone feels. Everyone already feels that ticket prices are too high. And then to put them up for £2 million more across the course of a year, it's 40 grand a week, which I'll be honest about this, that's half of, Jose Enrique's wages, and he doesn't play. And there's just a point at which people are just, that's it, that'll do. We've had enough. And that's what's come over. And it's a real shame because the club had engaged in this process of listening to 3 different supporter groups, including their own supporters committee that they set up. And they listened to them and then they just downright ignored them. And so it feels as though for them as well, this was just a hand-holding exercise. This was just stroking the dog. Well, they've stroked the dog and the dog's turned around and bitten them. And, 15,000 people walked out of Anfield at the weekend. And many of those who stayed agree with those who went but just couldn't quite bring themselves to do it. Across the Liverpool support and diaspora, who on the Anfield Wrap we're lucky enough to be able to speak to, there's massive sympathy for the local supporters, and not just the local supporters, those who travel from all over to pay this much money to watch football matches. Liverpool are the 9th richest club in the world. If you took all the ticket money away, and I mean all of it, if you got rid of all of it and everyone went in for free, we'd be 10th. And, this money is not essential for Liverpool to be able to compete at the highest level. We can't compete at the highest level on one hand, but we're able to compete at a level way beyond the vast majority of football clubs, including all the football clubs in Yorkshire, without even taking this ticket money into account. And that's the point, I think, at which, currently we're living in a world where Leicester are top and the 5 points clear. The idea that there is a link between success and budget, we all know that. But it's not as though this budgetary difference will mean Liverpool are challenging with Man City next season to sign Paul Pogba. We all know that won't be the case regardless. So it just feels churlish by the club, and it's been so badly handled, Sean.
Do you know what? I've had the Football Supporters Federation on this show before because we've done a lot with the 20s Plenty campaign and we've been talking to them about that. And obviously, we were looking at Leeds United against Nottingham Forest over the weekend, which of course, we had it live here on this radio station as we do with every single Leeds game.
Yeah.
The supporters who could have gone there on the day and paid £45 to get in, that is way too much to be going watching, any game of football, really. I mean, we're talking not just away prices, which could be capped at 30, 20 quid, whatever, but just any ticket with the amount of money that's not just in the Premier League, but it's also in the Championship as well. On a grander scale, things need to change, don't they?
Quite profoundly, and I think this is where structure is the friend of football clubs, because I understand one of the things that happens with football is things spiral. Costs spiral, and one of the reasons why costs spiral is because there's no ceiling. So Manchester City are within reason able to almost spend whatever they want on almost anybody. Well, there's therefore got to be ways in which you address the fact that things can just spiral and spiral. And for too long, and it's actually not in Liverpool's interests. For instance, Manchester United have got an 80,000-seater stadium. Liverpool's is going to be 53,000. If Manchester United are able to sell 60,000 tickets, say, at £70, and Liverpool can sell 40,000 tickets at £70, the markup that Manchester United make competitively over Liverpool is greater than if both those amounts were £30. That's just plain and simple economics. And what I think Liverpool supporters want, and I think Liverpool is quite distinct for this, but I'd like to think it's what most football supporters want, is to see their club take the lead. Their club say, let's us be the side who say enough's enough, and then goes to the Premier League or goes to the Championship and says, listen, should we collectively agree that we're not going to charge more than 40 quid for any normal ticket, and we're going to charge £30 for all away supporters because we know they've got to travel further, and we've all got our own away supporters and we want to see them be looked after. Can we all agree that? And I want to see Liverpool Football Club do that, as one of the cultural ambassadors of this city. It's a city which I love very much, even though it's got its massive pros and its enormous cons. I want to see Liverpool be represented in the world as, yes, we're trying to get a fairer deal for the average supporter. And, what I'd say to the ownership of Liverpool, if I could sit down with them, would be this: you cannot promise winning the league. You can't promise that. You can do your very best to win the league while you own Liverpool FSG. You can do your level best but you cannot control. Liverpool could get 95 points next season. We won't, but we could get 95 points next season. But Manchester City could get 96. You can't control that. But what you can control is you can control the way in which you treat your supporters. You can control the way in which the perception you've got of football supporters. You can represent football supporters full stop across the entirety of English football and say that there's got to be a line drawn somewhere. And obviously nothing will make Liverpool supporters prouder than winning the league. But one thing that would make Liverpool supporters genuinely proud of the football club would be if the club was to take the lead on this. And I think that this is where at times you feel as though people are off in a bubble. FSG run a lot of their business from Boston. Yes, they've got the stuff in Chapel Street. But it just feels as though there's these little bubbles that exist where they're able to sort of to deal with all this in the abstract. And then suddenly, because there was meant to be a Q&A about it today, suddenly 15,000 people walk out the ground on 77 minutes at the weekend, and they're furiously backpedaling and they're into rethink mode. The issue now with any rethink is if they'd have just kept it the same, as I said before, and just the 2 million trick and just didn't take that extra 2 million and just kept it the same, then people like me would walk around and say it was a missed opportunity. But on the whole, there wouldn't be a massive issue around it. The problem that you've got now is people will want to see Liverpool do a bit more than just that. They'll want to see quite a grand gesture. And it's whether or not there's the intellectual, the moral, the financial leadership within the football club to actually grasp this issue, to grasp the nettle of this issue and say we do want to take a lead on it because it's quite clear that's what our supporters want. And I just don't know if they've quite got that because that takes the sort of thought process that they've lacked so far.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I really am. It's just truly baffling. It really is. My colleague Tom from our news team's just joined us. Tom, you got a question for Neil, haven't you?
Yeah, just looking at the protest on Saturday. I mean, you talk there about a club taking the lead, and looking at the Liverpool fans, they seem to really take the lead on Saturday because there have been protests in the past where there's been maybe 30, 40 people have left, not to that massive scale that there was. Do you feel that this might now be an impetus for other teams to do the same, other sets of fans, because it clearly has gained the publicity which the Liverpool fans wanted from the weekend?
I think so, and I thought that the national press, swung around behind it. What struck me was, what occurred to me was, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some of the club owners ringing Liverpool in Boston on Saturday night, Sunday morning, saying, you need to deal with this. You need to deal with this pretty quickly, because this is what we all don't need. And, I think it's possible that it could go down that route, and that could conceivably be a good thing. But every club's got different issues, every club's got different problems. For instance, Everton are much better at dealing with 17 to 21-year-olds than Liverpool, and this isn't me I'm not scoring cheap points here, I just know this. They've got a really strong 17 to 21-year-old season ticket policy. But one of the reasons why is because Everton don't sell enough season tickets and they end up having to sell half-season tickets, and that's not me being parochial wind-up merchant. I'm just saying it's an example that, for instance, Sunderland don't sell out every week. They're a great club with a great ground. They don't sell out every week, so they've got more dynamic pricing than Liverpool, whereas Liverpool have got an access issue. On the other hand, the London clubs have got an even more dramatic pricing issue than even Liverpool have got, and so on and so forth. And I think that at times you can be guilty, and certainly in Liverpool we can be guilty of thinking there's one-size-fits-all solutions to the problems besetting football clubs, but there isn't. What there could be, and I don't understand why it hasn't happened, is Premier League leadership. To say, in the Premier League, if the Premier League let's say the Premier League said no tickets above 40 quid, let's say no tickets above 40 quid, those clubs come together and say no tickets above 40 quid. Well, how can Leeds United or Nottingham Forest or any Championship side say we're charging 45 quid?
Yeah, exactly.
So it changes overnight. And I just think if the bigger clubs in the Premier League can get together and just say that we don't want this trouble and strife. If need be, we have more corporate packages. We find more ways to do all that sort of stuff. But for regular ticket holders, we find a way to say, this is how much this is now. And then if we all act within those boundaries, then what that means, for instance, is that it might mean that we buy one fewer player. It might mean transfer fees go down a little bit. It might mean that players' wages over the long term end up reducing slightly. But that's got to be the knock-on effect, that Premier League level. But what Liverpool supporters want to see, and what I suspect every club would want to see, is their club take the lead. And the only way you take the lead is by taking action.
And it gets the fans on side. It makes everyone feel a bit better. It makes it look like the clubs are looking after you. And that's what everybody wants. Do you think off the back of this, you're saying about Premier League sort of leadership with this, really? You think now it is time to end this categorisation system at every single level of the game, whether it be Championship, Premier League, whatever? Category A, Category B, who cares? You go and start watching your team play another team, it doesn't really matter.
Very much so, and again, as an example of something that impacts Liverpool more than it impacts another side, it costs Liverpool supporters 50% more money to follow their team away from home than Everton supporters. So that's again because everywhere Liverpool go, they're a Category A. So we always have to, and then we get the lowest price Category A tickets for the away supporters. That's not the case for Everton, it's not the case for a number of sides. So everywhere Liverpool go, it costs 50% more. We all live in the same city. I mean, mostly, you can't generalise. But we've all got similar jobs, we've all got similar backgrounds. It costs half as much again to follow Liverpool. It's absolutely crazy because, as you say, people are there to watch their own team, or at least you'd like to think that that's the case.
There's been complaints up here, from the Leeds fans as well who've been travelling away. They think that sometimes they're getting priced out of going to various games. It's happening on every single level.
Exactly. I mean, because Leeds will be a massive draw for the Championship. But besides in the Championship, when Leeds are coming to town, if Leeds came up, they'd be at the very least Category B for Liverpool. It wouldn't be Category C. If Leeds came up, it'd be a big game for Liverpool. It'd be a big game for Manchester United. So straight away, those Leeds fans would be suffering exactly the same thing, even if they came up from the Championship into the Premier League. And it is fundamentally unfair. It's fundamentally unfair. And it's another example of just a loophole which people can get tripped up in. And again, it's something that's so easy to correct. It's so easy to correct. And I know that when they were in the ticket working group at Liverpool, the various supporter bodies were pushing for Liverpool should take the lead and end categorisation, even though it wouldn't help those Liverpool supporters. They were saying it helps us to win the argument going forward. And for a while that might have been on the table, but then no, sticking with categorisation, 19 different tiers of ticket prices, and those ticket prices extending into £77 and even beyond, because one of the tiers became low-level hospitality, went all the way through because it is very expensive. It was just deemed a normal ticket. The whole thing is, and this is where people get tired of it, feeling like it's just a complex stitch-up where people are trying to play one side off against the other and all that sort of stuff. And I do think, on the whole, football supporters have had enough.
You know what? You're exactly right. I'm going to be following this story with a lot of attention. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. Neil, quick chat about Liverpool themselves. Obviously, well, it was 2-0, wasn't it, before... we all sacked it off at the 77th minute, but not the greatest result of the weekend. FA Cup replay tomorrow against West Ham. Klopp is back, which is nice. He's been doing his press conference today. That meeting's going to be off tonight. I mean, Capital One Cup final, Liverpool are in that. That's a brilliant thing. It'd be great to come out of this season with a trophy. I mean, for me, I'd love to see Liverpool win the Europa League and get in the Champions League backdoor. But what do you think it's going to be like for the rest of the season? And are we in for revolution, not evolution?
I think I don't think Liverpool can afford I don't think Liverpool can afford evolution or revolution. I think that with an eye on next season, Klopp's got to sort of be quite forensic in his signings. No more than 3 or 4, but it's got to be the right 3 or 4, and it's got to be big money for them. I think 2 attackers to knock the midfielders who are currently playing in attack back into midfield. 2 attackers will be a real game changer if they've got genuine quality. A proper goalkeeper, one who bothers saving things, that'd be nice. And maybe one other player to fill in either at centre half or centre midfield with a bit of stature and a bit of bite. But I think on the whole, that sounds like both, but it's sort of neither, because there isn't really the move to. I mean, you can never plan 3 years hence in football. Anything can happen, less the top. So I think you've got to be quite clever about that sort of stuff. On this season, Capital One Cup coming up, yeah, that's exciting, and it'd be nice, I think, for Klopp to get his first trophy under his belt. Still in the FA Cup, it's going to be tough at West Ham. I think the main thing you'd like to see from Liverpool between now and the end of the season, and certainly if you get some semblance of fitness from Sturridge, but also seeing Origi and Coutinho return, is remembering how to win in the league. I think, that 2-0 against Sunderland the weekend, that becomes 2-2. Liverpool battered Sunderland. They should have nailed it by some distance, and much of the season has been spent with Liverpool being the better side between both penalty areas, but being dreadful in each penalty area. And Liverpool have got to improve in both penalty areas. If they can do that before the season finishes, great. But regardless, that's where the money's got to go in the summer.